Welcome to the Rack Junkies podcast. I'm Steven Ziegler once again, and this episode is brought to you by rackjunkies.com. I have some CWD19 shirts up there. It's so that I can continue to avoid having any sponsors. I want to avoid that at all costs, especially with the things that I've been talking about and the things that I have today. I need to have my own thing, not rely on people that are going to try to tell me what to do. I also really shortly, hopefully today, maybe by this weekend, we'll have shirts that say open field or closed fields doctrine, established 1791, which is the year the Fourth Amendment was written. I know I've written a lot about open fields doctrine lately, so those shirts should be really cool. Check them out. If you want to get one, get one. I think the CWD19 one is pretty funny. It gives you something to wear around camp, your hunting camp. Multiple colors, green, white, black, and orange, because Rack Junkies is orange. All right, I hate doing the self-promotion stuff, so let's move on. I have to talk about this thing in Washington State with regards to the game commissioners being attached to anti-hunting groups, like having secret meetings, avoiding public records requests, all of that. That is a massive story. It shows just how bad the game agencies have gotten. And I want to dive into that very specifically. However, I have been spending hours writing out an entire transcript for the podcast. I don't read it. I just write it out so that I have a better idea of what I'm going to be talking about. And so I'm going to be spending this next week writing out that episode. So next week, be ready. I'm going to talk about that and even get more in depth into how deep the anti-hunters go into the game agencies. I have people emailing me and sending me some crazy, they're literally somebody who's undercover in these agencies working and meeting with anti-hunting groups. I'm still working to independently confirm. Well, I have independently confirmed that he is doing that. There is real reports and stuff on that. But I have to confirm some other things before I do it. Should be a really good one. I'm going to spend all week writing it, making it as good as I can. Get a new computer or a TV up in front of me so that I can, look straight at the camera, trying to improve this, because I feel that what's being talked about on this podcast is far more important than what most hunting podcasts are. Not that those aren't fun. Those are fun. They're enjoyable. I go on them. I do them. I like them. I listen to them. That's me. But I think that there's nobody, in my opinion, and maybe there's somebody I'm not thinking of, but that's breaking down what's really happening politically in the hunting community. And if you're following Rack Junkies on Facebook, you've seen this happen over and over and over. And it's a real problem. That it is the biggest threat to hunting isn't us arguing about crossbows. It's not us arguing about big bucks versus small bucks. You can have a problem with those arguments all you want, but we have anti-hunters and non-hunters embedded in our game agencies. We have a bunch of, and this is what we're talking about today, specifically with Ohio, we have anti-hunters, we have NGOs that masquerade as pro-hunting, but are pushing DEI and pushing people who don't hunt into the agencies. And I have quotes. I have the actual video. It's on YouTube. It's only got 169 views because nobody watches this stuff. So I spend my time watching it. I'm going to be writing about it because I'm going to be doing these podcasts about it, because it's important for everybody to understand that our game agencies are full of people that are not on our side. Okay. And you'll actually see this. Somebody pointed this out to me online. I thought it was a very wise thing to say, that a lot of these game agencies are not game agencies. Look at Ohio, the Ohio Division of Fish and Wildlife. There's a lot of them that went to the Division of Wildlife, not Fish and Game. A lot of them have changed their names, and that was intentional, very intentional, because it's not that they look at at our deer and elk and moose as a game species, as a resource for us. They don't see it that way. The people in these agencies and in our government fundamentally see hunting and all of these wildlife differently than the hunters who are listening to this. And this is embedded in our game agencies. And I've watched the videos. These things are all over. I'm going to be going through these. They're hilarious. These things are hilarious. They have the energy, all of them have the energy of these dance movies where this rich white girl comes in and she's gonna save the poor black kids and through the power of dance, and we're going to fall in love with each other, and then they're going to get good grades, and the whole community is going to prosper. Every one of these meetings has that energy. It does. It really does. It's very condescending and rude, I think. I think that it's mostly, it's a lot of women that don't have kids that need somebody to mother. I got all my notes here. I've written out this entire podcast, but like I said, I'll be moving from piece to piece on here, trying to get it to where I can have more of a good flow for you guys. So what the video I'm going to be talking about today is actually one with somebody from the Wildlife Management Institute named Lindsay Martinez. She no longer works there, but she was their coordinator for the relevancy coordinator. So there was what's called a relevancy roadmap that was a federal thing under the Biden administration. A lot of states, such as Ohio, even though they are extraordinarily Republican, took these things up, pushed DEI, pushed anti-hunters and non-hunters and people who do not believe in using hunting for consumptive purposes. They do not believe in hunting for meat. They think that is morally wrong, pushing those people into our game departments, or wildlife departments as they call it now. Again, why this is intentional. Now, she's on a YouTube video with Peter Avatini, I forget, I can't. He was the assistant chief for the Ohio Division of Wildlife. And they're talking about this relevancy roadmap, how we can get more DEI into our game agencies. Again, this one is specific to Ohio, but this is across all of the game agencies, across the entire state. Don't think that because you're in a red state that it's not happening, or, hey, I'm in a blue state, so it's happening. No. This is across the board. Okay, Texas, they have an entire person in their Texas Parks and Wildlife for this specifically. Michigan, Ohio's super majority Republican. Okay, this is a bureaucracy thing, and the bureaucracy tends to be very left, and that's what our fish and game is. So before we get started on this, I want to make sure, because I don't remember exactly where this pops up in the podcast, but it will, and you're going to see this idea repeated over and over and over. These people will say things like, oh, well, this idea, it's like an iceberg, because, we can see all this up here, but the real important stuff is the stuff that we can't see. It's like, so what? What are you saying? Oh, you mean, are you telling me that, hey, all of the relevant facts that I'm going to tell you aren't going to convince you of anything, but just remember, there's a ton of stuff below the surface that you don't understand, that only we, the bureaucracy, the heads of these game agencies, only we can understand. You puny little peons are not intelligent enough to understand the concepts that we can't even articulate ourselves. Every time, every one of these videos has the same one of a couple of analogies. This is the most prominent one. It's like an iceberg. Anytime you hear that, just remember, what they're really saying is, hey, I'm going to tell you all this stuff. You will be completely and totally and thoroughly unconvinced by anything that I have to say to you. But just remember, really, it's all the hidden knowledge that we didn't tell you about that makes us right. Or you're wrong. I don't know. Maybe, or you're inarticulate and can't convey your dumb opinions that are not backed by any sort of logic or reason. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that you don't have the ability to articulate it. That's best case scenario. But I think that it's two things. One, you're inarticulate. Two, you don't have a fully formed, coherent opinion that is relevant to anything at all except for just trying to get to the next level, just trying to push DEI. The DEI narrative fell apart. But in the last election, we saw that, but it is still invasive in every aspect of our government, especially our game agencies. And the video's online. The video's on YouTube. Obviously, this video comes from when Biden was in office. That's when it was most prevalent. However, Ohio still has a DEI policy for their Ohio Division of Wildlife and for the ODNR, the Ohio Division of Natural Resources. And so do most states. Okay, I've looked into it. I've found them. I just don't have time to write about the same thing about every single state. Now, this video starts out where they're going to talk about the Ohio Relevancy Roadmap, which is a woke program used to move funds from traditional hunting and things that the hunters care about to things that do not involve hunting at all. Like it's meant to move funds, and it's meant to change employment. So we're going to move people in that don't agree with the hunting way of life, that are openly against that. And I have a couple other grants here. This is a little side note. There's a grant I wrote about last week where they spent $150,000 to do some polling. They found that 30 to 35% of the population does not agree with hunting for consumptive purposes, and then advocated that 30 to 35% of the game agencies be staffed with people who do not agree with consumptive purposes of hunting, including making sure that we have enough non-binary people in the game agencies. This is real. This is I put the grant number online. It is easy to find now. It's a 15-page document. You can read it for yourself. They literally want people that don't know the difference between boys and girls to be biologists, to tell you how to manage deer on your property. That is a real R3 Pittman Roberts money grant that was spent. And that part's the least concerning. The more concerning part about it is that they wanted that 30 to 35% of people that don't agree with hunting in our game agencies. Sorry, our wildlife agencies. Again, very intentional wording here by them. These are changing across the country, and they shouldn't. It should be game, fish and game. This is our game. This is a natural resource that we are using. But the game agencies no longer have our best interest in mind. Now I want to clarify one thing. There's a lot of people that get into this because they actually love hunting. There's a lot of game wardens. They just love hunting and they wanted to be a game warden, or they worked their way up. And, we do have people on our side in these game agencies. That is absolutely true. And I want to make sure I acknowledge them and give them a shout out. Please keep fighting the good fight, because we know how hard it is when from the top, from the governors, from the heads of these agencies down, you're being pressured in the opposite direction. We understand that. And you have called me. Keep calling. You have some information, let me know. It gets talked about on here. And to the few of you watching and listening that have given me this information, you know who you are. And a big shout out to you guys, because that's how I'm able to find a lot of this nonsense. And it was how I found this video, by the way. Not saying who sent it to me, though. Now, working with the wildlife, the Wildlife Management Institute, working with the Wildlife Management Institute. This is an NGO that's been around since 1911. I've been very critical of them. They spend massive amounts of money on R3 grants, accomplish nothing. In fact, half the grants I've written about that were wastes of money, like the one where they spent $33,000 in, or maybe it was $50,000 to try to get black people into squirrel hunting. 12 white people showed up, and one, according to their grant, Latinx person showed up. And all the black people said, nah, that's some white people stuff to do right there. And not a one of them showed up. Okay, it was a waste of money. The one in Michigan where they spent $16,000 on their own salaries, $16,000 on Facebook ads, and only had $901.37 left over to actually put on an event that was supposed to recruit hunters. Okay? And by the way, their results were that I think it was 9 people said, or maybe 16 people said, hey, we might be interested in taking a hunter safety course in the future, which basically means that the entire result of that $50,000 or whatever this spending was, tens of thousands of dollars, the end result was 16 people telling them politely no. Generated nothing for hunting. Did no good. It made the people at the Wildlife Management Institute rich. Yeah, there was 16 grand for their salaries. I mean, they got to get a lot more. They get a lot more than that, obviously. Their CEO makes $300,000 a year. The vice president, whatever, the second guy in charge makes another $300,000. These people are getting rich off of your money, so they've got to get a bunch of these wasteful grants going. But it is $16,000 that went to making them rich at your expense. Taxes you paid. That is a problem with me, and I think it's a problem with most people. So this video starts out with Lindsay Martinez of the Wildlife Management Institute, and this Peter, I forget his last name. He's the assistant chief, or at least was, of the Ohio Division of Wildlife. So this video starts out with Peter acknowledging that Chief Kendra Wecker is pushing this stuff. Like he says, says from the very beginning, like, listen, Chief Weckner, is it Kenzie? Chief Kendra, I think it's Kenzie. I thought it was Kelsey. I forget, whatever her name is. She's the chief of the Ohio Division of Wildlife here in Ohio, that she is pushing this stuff. He acknowledges that from the beginning. Hey, she wanted us to take this on. She's being supportive of us. All sorts of things that he says. Now, first things first, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you exact quotes from this video, this YouTube video. And what I found was he said, we came up with some great ideas. Now, what were those great ideas for this? Sorry, let me try to do this again. The Ohio Relevancy Roadmap. What was the first thing that happened? That was the question. How did you guys get started with the Ohio Relevancy Roadmap? Sorry, trying to get better at this. Well, their great ideas at first were they needed new signage and enhanced parking. So they gave some money to people in the agency and said, hey, we need to get more women and black people into hunting. We need to get more of the LGBTQ into hunting, or not into hunting, sorry, into our agency, because they're not hunters, lots of them, especially LGBTQ crowd. We need to get a lot more of the non-hunters into our agency. What's your big ideas here? Well, what if we had better signs? Okay. What? Your big idea is signs. This is what happens when government tries to solve problems. Like, hey, maybe if we got them signs, maybe new signs will get people into our agency. Maybe better parking lots. Okay, yeah, you're supposed to take care of your parking lots. But this is what he has to show for the money. He has to say something. I mean, obviously the answer is they don't have anything, clearly. Now, it starts talking about the executive planning group. Like, how did we get into this? And he said, we had to have really tough discussions with some of these people. And let me give you some quotes. Lindsay, speak to the historical challenges. Speak to the historical challenges. Now, immediately when I hear this, like, what are the historical challenges to getting non-hunters into the game agencies? Oh, well, I don't know. Hunters restored all of the game thanks to us and our taxes and how we manage wildlife. Thanks to us, we have it. So, I mean, overcoming those challenges seems like overcoming success, which we will see is true. Now, Peter goes on to say, we know the traditional method, the successful one that built the North American model of conservation, that one. Yeah, we know what that one is. But he goes on. We change the success of our traditional partners that continues to be a challenge. Why change the success of our traditional partners is a question he was asked. And then he goes on to say that continues to be a challenge. Yes, as it should be. We got it right. We restored it. Okay? The hunters did. And saying that keeping hunters and saying, hey, well, the traditional way, the way that's worked for over 100 years, the thing that worked, yeah, getting past that, man, it continues to be a challenge. Yeah, it does. Of course it does. And it should. Good. That tells me that there are still some good people inside of the game agencies because they're putting up a fight. And he acknowledges that later on. We'll get into that. But we should be thankful that those people are in there putting up a fight because, yes, we did this. And now they're trying to take it away from us through the money. Remember, the people who control the money, this YouTube video has 150 to 200 views. Nobody's listening to them. So why does it even matter? Nobody's paying it. Nobody agrees with them. Well, it doesn't matter because they control the money. They control the power. They control the institution. And it's being taken over from the inside. They acknowledge that they're trying to take it over from hunters. Your hunting game agencies are openly saying that they want to take over power from hunters and give it to people who do not approve of hunting for consumptive purposes. That is over and over and over in these grants. I can show it to you 50 times that I've seen so far, and I'm sure there are a lot more. So they go on that they had to worry about, quote, systems thinking. Oh, this is the part. This is the part where he says the iceberg thing. This is the part where he said, think of it like an iceberg. Okay? We have this system, and it's working, okay? But we need to change it. I'm going to give you nothing at all that changes your mind. I will give you 0 compelling points. I have 0 logic behind what I'm saying. Nobody will be even remotely in any way, in the tiniest way, convinced by what I say. But just remember, it's like an iceberg. All the stuff that is really important, you just can't see it. You just can't see it. It's just not of it. We know we're right. We can't articulate why, but you better know that you're wrong and we're right. It's because they cannot articulate their ideas. Obviously, I'm on here articulating my ideas. I get way more views. People care about what I'm writing. They care about what I'm saying because I'm articulating and showing my point of view piece by piece by piece. They do not do this. It is a bunch of DEI language that doesn't mean anything, that convinces nobody except for upper middle class wine moms that are just, will be compelled by anything that sounds like it's empathetic and nice. That's the only people convinced by any of this. But again, that is the Ohio Division of Wildlife's leadership. Now, most people spent their entire, this one's not a quote. Okay, most people spent their entire career advancing all the way through the agency. Now, here's the quote. We had to find a way to not make things personal. So what he's saying is he goes along and says, we needed to have a way that didn't make it personal when the person who started in the agency at the bottom and is working their way up, and we'll get to the middle management, that's specifically who they're talking about here in a minute. And these person worked their way up and worked their way up and worked their way up. And you know how we're going to hire other people to get those promotions and move unqualified people into those jobs right away through our DEI policy, which is documented? You know how that's going to happen? Yeah. Don't take that personal. You know how you have a wife and kids at home and you've dedicated your life to doing the right thing in the game agency and you've earned this promotion so that you can have a little more money to take your family to Florida this year? Hey, you're not going to get that promotion. It's not for you because of DEI, but don't take it personally. You know how you have a daughter at home, son at home? You're getting their license? That's where I'm at right now. I have a daughter about to get her license. Hey, you know how you're about to buy your daughter a car and help her out to get started? Hey, sorry, you don't get the promotion because we had to implement these DEI policies. But the real challenge, we can't be taking this personally. It affects your personal life. It affects all the people you personally love the most, but don't take it personally. Don't take it that way. Okay, this is another one of those iceberg arguments. Like, there's nothing you're saying that's compelling in any way at all, but still do it. Because if you knew what we did, if you knew what we knew, then you would understand. Then you would be more enlightened like we are. We can no longer articulate anything that resembles a coherent thought, but don't take it personally. You'll make less money and you'll get skipped over for a promotion for people who don't hunt inside of the game agencies. That's what they're saying. Doesn't that just piss you off? I mean, it does me. Again, you can watch this video for yourself online. Don't just take my word for it. When I say a quote, you can watch the video, pull the quote, watch it for yourself. And trust me, this is an hour-long video. It is mind-numbingly boring. Because again, there's nothing that resembles a coherent thought in it. And the Wildlife Management Institute is claiming to be a hunter organization, but this is what they're pushing. So, okay, now start to move on. What was the first step? Now, this is from Peter. This is a quote from him. First step was to prepare the staff. They hired a consultant to talk to middle management. Again, that was the end of the quote, to prepare the staff. They hired a consultant to talk with middle management because middle management holds the most risk of change. Yes. Oh, you mean the people who've earned promotions? You mean the people who have dedicated their lives to helping out hunters and increasing opportunities for hunters? Now we're going to push people into those jobs that haven't earned them. And we're going to push money away from the purposes that we signed up for, the thing that we dedicated our life for. These great people in the organizations, because they are there, there's a lot of them are in middle management, that want to make hunting better. We're going to be pushing those dollars towards, and we got a really good example here of a pollinator project where they built a wasp and yellow jacket farm is what they built, with a bunch of graffiti. We'll get into that in a minute. But yes, if you're a middle manager and you worked for 10, 15 years to get there and tried to earn that promotion by doing everything you can and being a hard worker and everything we want out of you, those people not getting promotions or not being able to help wildlife and help hunters and hunter opportunity, yeah, they're going to be mad, and they should be. And thank you to the ones who are mad and who are pushing back against this bullcrap. Now he goes on. That's when I brought in WMI, Wildlife Management Institute. He says that's his quote. That's when we brought in WMI. How do we invite new people into our agency, right? So this Wildlife Management Institute, some people have tried to defend it, saying, oh, well, they're this great hunting organization. It's an NGO, yeah, but, they've been around since 1911. Okay, they are specializing in going to states and working with them on implementing DEI in your game agencies. That's what the Wildlife Management Institute's doing. Here's documented, provable grants and videos and evidence for you to see it for yourself. The Wildlife Management Institute is the enemy of the hunters. They're helping implement the takeover of our game agencies, and everyone should be scared about that. You can see them right here. This is this lady, this Martinez, Miss Martinez. She is worked for the Wildlife Management Institute while she was making this video. She was representing them. Does that not convince you? Well, let's move on to see what kind of wonderful projects they're going to do to see if we can have some more convincing arguments. Lindsay, what did you find? Peter, how we hire people. Lindsay shakes her head, right? He's like, well, the first thing we found was how we hire people. And she's just sitting there like, yeah, like head banging, like she's at a rock concert, right? Like she's like head banging, like, oh yeah. Yeah. Tell me more about how we need people who don't hunt in the game agencies. Tell me how we need, and they word this in the wording. I wish I could remember their exact wording because it's actually quite intelligent. It's something along the lines of non-traditional stakeholders, right? Like it's like, oh, the non-traditional stakeholders of the game agencies. Oh, so you mean the people who didn't restore wildlife to North America? Do you mean the ones that didn't participate in getting us to where we're at now? Oh, yeah. We got to bring them in. Now, another little side note, because I know where this is going to go. They're going to tell you, well, we have to do it because we need more money. And in fact, this is alluded to in the very beginning of this podcast or video, whatever it is. I don't know if it's a podcast or it's just, I saw it on YouTube. It's one of their official videos. I don't know if they have it in podcast form. But they say, we need to bring in more people so that we have more volunteers, so that we can get more out of our division of wildlife. All right. I want you to keep that in mind while we go over this grant that they passed out to downtown. It's just outside of Cleveland. I want you to keep this in mind. How many licenses do you think that this sells? How many hunting licenses, which is the main driver of revenue for these game agencies, pulling non-hunters into the wildlife agencies, how much money do you think that generates? And how much money do you think it generates when they do projects like building a wasp and hornet farm in downtown Cleveland with graffiti? How much participation, let's say they did do this project and we'll go over it, but how much do you think that's going to increase revenues, right? We're going to pull money away from helping hunters, which buy the licenses and pay the taxes and fund these things. We're going to pull money from there to these new and these brilliant and just thriving other groups that don't care about hunting at all, because they're going to help fund the future of our wildlife. Think about it for a second. How much do you think they're going to bring in revenue? Well, the answer is zero. I mean, I think we all know that. It's not just zero, it's negative, because we're going to give them a bunch of money, get nothing in return. That's what's going to happen. So anyone that says that, hey, we're running out of money, therefore we have to have Mexicans in downtown Cleveland build a wasp and hornet farm, Explain to me how that brings in revenue, because it doesn't. So your entire argument, oh, wait, no, sorry. I got it, actually. Sorry, no, I just educated myself. It's actually like an iceberg. Yeah, it's like an iceberg. All the facts that I pointed out that showed that there's not a coherent thought going on here, it's actually the arguments that nobody's ever heard of that are below the surface. That's how they're going to raise more revenue. All right. No, you know what, guys? Now you're making sense. What do you know? Maybe I'm on the side of the game agencies and the Wildlife Management Institute. But then again, I'm not completely and totally stupid and inarticulate and unable to make a single convincing point. You know, maybe if that was me, then I would have fallen into that trap, but I'm not. Sorry, I'm a little angry today. A little worked up. I read too much of these things. It gets me a little worked up. All right. So let's move on, because this is going on a TV show, by the way. I'll talk about that later, and I got to keep it to a very strict 44-minute thing, and I'm still learning. Now, how do we hire people? She shakes her head. They're trying to get non-hunters. Okay, I covered that. We threw out everything. This was a quote from Peter. We threw out everything, right? He's talking about, hey, we looked at all of the hiring practices, and we said, hey, what was the most successful biologist that you have? The most successful game warden? How did you interview him? How did you get so that we could hire the best? And then he said, quote, we threw out every interview. So you have good data showing you how to recruit in a very good way to give you good employees. And you said, well, a little too light for us, a little too white, a little too male. So how about this? Let's throw out all of the good things we've learned. And then, like an iceberg, because you can't understand that, this isn't a convincing argument. There's some really good things below the surface that'll, we can't articulate it to you, but, you will have a better staff here because of, the iceberg and the things that we can't tell you because we can't articulate a single coherent point. All the success they learned from the past is gone. They threw it out. This is openly what he says in the video. And again, my videos are going to get better because I'm going to start editing these clips in. I'm just learning how to do it. I don't have a producer yet. I'm looking on how I could edit some of these things together. It's a lot of work. Now, first thing we focused on, more females. We were at 12% unacceptable. That's a quote. Unacceptable. Why is that unacceptable? What percentage should it be? Did you have, what percentage of people filled out applications? What percentage of females want to be a game warden? What percentage of females want to go around and talk to a bunch of hunters? What percentage of people want to be middle management in these? I don't know the answer to that. But if you're telling me that because you don't have the demographics that match up with Ohio, that means that we're doing it wrong, well, you're wrong. There's a lot. I'm gonna make a bold statement here. There's a lot more young guys, and again, this isn't a black-white thing. People try to make this like this division thing about like race when it's really not. It's in hunting. It's about hunters and non-hunters. There's way less female hunters. They're a very small percentage, and as that percentage grows, I would expect to naturally see more females in the game agencies. That's fine. I don't care. Guy or girl, are you good at it? But just objectively saying, hey, we saw that the number wasn't where we wanted it, therefore it's unacceptable. Throw out all the good hiring practices we have, and let's just hire people that aren't as qualified. That is wrong. I have a daughter. If she wants to get into it, I hope that she gets the exact same fair treatment as everybody else. But the reality is the guys that get into the game agencies are generally dudes that grew up hunting with their dad and grandpa and loved it and want to push hunting forward, but they can't have that. They can't have that because, well, then maybe we would be optimizing for hunter opportunity, and we can't have that anymore because DEI. So again, should every job have equal male and female? You don't see bricklayers being equal, right? You don't see, teachers are far more female. Why isn't everything the same, right? Equity, DEI, diversity, equity, not equal, equity and inclusion. Now, next quote, this is from Lindsay, could you talk about how to reach out to more Blacks? That's her quote. Now, this is where we get into the grant proposal. And what he said was that they turned Eastside Cleveland. I actually don't think it was Eastside Cleveland. It's just outside of there. There's an abandoned lot. Either way, there's an abandoned lot that they turned into a pollinator with Black and Hispanic people. Now, first off, that is just a wasp and hornet farm. Like, good job. You got wasps and yellow jackets on some flowers because you had Brian and Jorge and what's a good white guy's name? Let's go with Deshaun. Yeah, Deshaun. Yeah, Deshaun's a good white guy's name. Obviously, you have, Brian as the Black guy in this analogy, and Jorge's Jorge. We get that, right? Look at me with my DEI examples here, being a good liberal, right? That I'm sure everybody will be happy that I was diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Now, you might have thought that Deshaun was the Black guy, but that makes you racist. So he basically said they were going to have this big farm, this pollinator, right? So that there could be bees. We need bees and butterflies. So the way we're going to attract more Black and Mexican people into our game agencies is with bees and butterflies. Now, to my Black and one Mexican friend, I'm a little light on the Mexican friends, just, where I'm at in Ohio, there's not a lot of them. But, for no particular reason, I used to work with a lot of Mexican guys at my old job. They weren't really guys that were running around snapping pictures and looking at and walking around a garden to look at bees and butterflies. In fact, that was to help get more Black and Hispanics into the game agencies. But realistically, if anything, it's real chick energy there. I'm not doing it either. Obviously. I'm not trying to get stung. I got stung the other day. It sucks. But what are you going to do? Well, we're gonna give this, and here's where it gets really good. They said, we had this project, and we didn't even make them ask for money. In fact, let me read his quote here. I want to read his quote. I want to get this right. Giving money, they did not, this quote, did not have to ask for money. It wasn't asking, it's empowering. No, it's waste. You were like, hey, we gave these people a blank check. They didn't even have to tell us what they were doing with it. It was just like, hey, to all the we want to try to get the Blacks and Mexicans into hunting and fishing. So here's a bunch of money to build a wasp and hornet farm. To my Black and Mexican friends, does this seem like something that makes you go, man, I didn't care about wildlife. I was living my life, but after I get done playing basketball, why don't we all go down to the local pollinator and stare at the bees and the butterflies? I'm asking you. Maybe this is me. Maybe this is one of those things that, it doesn't make any sense when you explain all of the details, like an iceberg and like below the surface, like actually I'm just a racist below the surface because I don't think that most of my Black and Mexican friends are sitting around after playing basketball. Deshaun, the white guy smacks, Brian on the butt and goes, hey man, what do you think about going to the local pollinator? I think that the white guy's getting punched in the face. That's what I think, because that's one, I don't know. This is going on TV. I'm not sure what I can say. I better be careful. Yeah, that's I have a lot of African-American friends, and they ain't going to take too kindly to being smacked on the butt and ask if they want to go look at the butterflies with another guy. Okay? That's just not how this works. But then again, what did I say at the very beginning of this podcast? I said that the energy of these people is the rich white girl coming into the downtrodden Black school with her power of dance to get them to get good grades and be successful in life, because we have to help them where they're at. Ain't no black guys at this thing, I guarantee it. Yeah. Now they also said that they're putting up murals, and I haven't been there yet. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna actually go, because this is about an hour away from my house. I'm gonna drive there and see what this thing looks like. I'm betting that it's graffiti, not murals. I'm guessing that it's overgrown, and there's probably, if anything is taken care of in any way at all, my assumption at this point would be that it is being taken care of by somebody that is getting a check over and over and over to take care of it. That's the only way that this thing is being taken care of in any way. So it's a continual cost. I haven't proven that out yet, because I'm going to go there. If it's taken care of at all, I'm going to find a grant. If it's not, then you just know that this was just a complete and total waste of money. Either way, this was a colossal waste of money, because we don't want this agency to continue to look like the way it looks like. Now, let me just clear up one thing. If anybody of any sort of diverse background, and it's not, I don't care what it is, male, female, white, black, Mexican, Asian, I don't care. If you want to be a part of the game agency, I want you to be a hunter. I'm going to openly say it. I'm going to openly say that I think that our game agency should be staffed by people who are going to optimize for hunting and hunting opportunities, that are going to maximize the resource of our game for us. That's what I want. And I want people to understand that there's a lot of people watching this that are on the other side. The people who did this video, they will tell you, and I'm not going to speak for them, but let me give you an insight. They actually think that what they're doing is right. Even with how I've explained it, they would sit there and say, well, of course, we want all of these people in. We don't think that the game agencies should just represent hunters. We don't think that all of those licenses and tags and Pittman Roberts money and all that should just benefit the people that are paying for it. We don't think that it should benefit the hunters. We think that it should benefit everybody. Well, sorry, you're not paying for it. And even if you were, we still need to be using the North American model of conservation, the one that brought the wildlife back, to fund. We funded saving the wildlife. We need to maintain that. Now, I pointed this out. I don't got a lot of time left, but there was a Ohio State professor that got money from the Ohio Division of Wildlife, and then did a poll. He called it a scientific study. It was just a poll, and said, well, we don't need anybody to represent. We don't need the North American model of conservation. We need to fund it different ways, because it's too in line with hunters. So this stuff is going on. Got to end it there. But next week I'll be talking about the Washington case and the commissioners, and how they are absolutely proven in the documents to have had a bunch of meetings with the game agency, with the anti-hunting groups, and the commissioners are meeting to coordinate votes against the hunting community. This is proven. Follow it on Rack Junkies. And while you're at it, go out there, check out rackjunkies.com. It's new. I'm going to be adding stuff there. I'm going to be putting a spot on the site for all of my sources, a page with all the grants. And if you want to buy a CWD19 shirt, I'd appreciate it. I think that it's funny and fun, and it says Rack Junkies below it. People have been asking for merch for a long time, and now I'm doing it. And also, hopefully here soon, we will have the Closed Fields Doctrine shirts available. It says established 1791 when the Fourth Amendment was written. So hopefully that'll be out here soon. Thanks for listening. I will be back next week. Let me know. Do you think I'm getting better at this? What do you think of this podcast? Comment, and then please subscribe. It actually does help. I'll be a millennial. Like and subscribe.